The blood-red punch splashed across my wife's cleavage as she laughed at something that bastard Dominic whispered in her ear. I watched from across Richard's crowded living room, gripping my beer so tight the aluminum cracked under my thumb. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. You look like you're about to murder someone, Greg. Richard appeared beside me, dressed as a vampire with fake fangs that made him lisp. Everything okay? I forced a smile. Just admiring my wife's costume choice. Alicia wore a skin-tight black catsuit that left nothing to imagination. Every guy at this Halloween party was staring, but only one had the balls to actually touch her waist while whispering sweet nothings. Dominic wore a ridiculous Tarzan costume that showed off his gym-sculpted chest. The factory worker spent more time lifting weights than working, and it showed. He was everything I wasn't. Tall, muscular, confident. While I managed 3 restaurants and wore suits to work, he wore hard hats and flexed for housewives. Susie looks like she's having fun too, Richard nodded toward Dominic's wife, who was doing tequila shots with a group of younger guys near the kitchen. Susie always went wild at parties, the complete opposite of my usually reserved Alicia. But tonight, Alicia wasn't acting reserved at all. I watched my wife of 12 years tilt her head back and laugh at something Dominic said. Her hand rested on his bicep a beat too long. My stomach churned with a familiar cocktail of jealousy and rage that I hadn't felt since my amateur boxing days. Maybe I should go say hello, I muttered, starting toward them. Richard grabbed my arm. Greg, don't. You're reading too much into it. They're just friends. Friends. Right. Friends don't look at each other like they want to rip each other's clothes off in a room full of people. I downed the rest of my beer and crushed the can. I need another drink. The kitchen was packed with costumed partygoers mixing cocktails and gossiping. I grabbed a beer from Richard's fridge and overheard Susie talking to 2 other wives. I swear, sometimes I think our husbands were switched at birth, Susie giggled, clearly drunk. Dominic's got the body, but Greg's got the brains. Alicia's lucky. She gets to look at both. The other women laughed knowingly. My face burned with embarrassment and anger. Speaking of looking, one of them said, have you seen how cozy they've been lately? At the gym, at the grocery store? Oh, please, Susie waved dismissively. They're workout partners. Nothing wrong with a little motivation. Besides, Greg's probably not keeping up with Alicia's needs anyway. Restaurant management isn't exactly physical work. I wanted to punch something. Instead, I headed back to the living room, weaving through zombies and superheroes, looking for my wife. I found her on the back patio with Dominic, away from the crowd. They stood close together, her hand on his chest, his arm around her waist. They were talking quietly, intimately, like lovers sharing secrets. Something inside me snapped. I walked outside, letting the screen door slam behind me. They jumped apart like teenagers caught making out. Hey, honey, Alicia said too brightly. We were just getting some fresh air. I can see that. I looked between them, noting Alicia's flushed cheeks and Dominic's guilty expression. Mind if I join you, or should I come back later? Dominic straightened up, trying to look casual. Actually, I should find Susie. She's probably wondering where I am. He brushed past me, squeezing Alicia's hand as he left. The gesture was quick, but I caught it. Greg, don't be ridiculous, Alicia said, reading my expression. We were just talking. About what? Nothing important. Gym stuff. You wouldn't be interested. Try me. She sighed dramatically. He was telling me about this new protein powder, that's all. I stared at her, this woman I'd married, had kids with, built a life with. She was lying to my face with the same mouth that used to tell me she loved me every morning. Protein powder, I repeated flatly. Yes. God, Greg, you're being paranoid. Am I? Because from where I stood, it looked like he was about to kiss you. Her eyes flashed with anger. That's insane. You're seeing things that aren't there. Then why did you jump apart when I came outside? Because we knew you'd react exactly like this. You've been acting crazy jealous lately. Maybe because my wife's been acting like she's single lately. Alicia crossed her arms, her catsuit creaking with the movement. I'm going back inside. When you're ready to stop being an ass, come find me. She stalked past me, leaving me alone on the patio with my suspicions and my rage. I stood there for several minutes, trying to calm down, trying to convince myself I was overreacting. But I couldn't shake the image of Dominic's hand on her waist, the way they looked at each other, the intimate whispers. When I went back inside, I couldn't find either of them. I found them in Richard's kitchen 20 minutes later. Alicia was washing dishes, something she never did at our own house, while Dominic dried them. They worked in perfect sync, like they'd done this dance 1,000 times before. "There you are," I said, making them both flinch. "Ready to go home?" Alicia glanced at Dominic before answering. "Actually, I told Susie I'd help clean up. You can go ahead if you want." "I'll wait." The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Other party-goers sensed it and gave us a wide berth, but I caught them stealing glances and whispering. Dominic cleared his throat. "I should probably get going anyway. Susie's had a lot to drink." "Good idea," I said, not bothering to hide my hostility. He left without another word, but not before giving Alicia one last meaningful look. The ride home was silent. Alicia stared out the passenger window while I gripped the steering wheel and tried to organize my thoughts. Our 2 kids were at her mother's for the weekend, so we had the house to ourselves. Perfect for the conversation we needed to have. Once we were inside, Alicia kicked off her heels and headed for the stairs. "I'm tired. I'm going to bed." "We need to talk." "About what?" "About you and Dominic." She stopped on the 3rd step and turned around. "There is no me and Dominic." "Bullshit." "Excuse me?" I walked to the bottom of the stairs and looked up at her. "I said bullshit. You 2 have been flirting for weeks. Tonight you were practically all over each other." "You're being ridiculous." "Am I? Then explain the secret conversations. Explain why Susie thinks it's funny that you get to look at both me and her husband. Explain why you jumped apart like you'd been caught doing something wrong." Alicia's mask finally slipped. Her face went from innocent confusion to cold defiance in seconds. "Fine," she said, walking back down the stairs. "You want the truth? Here's the truth. Yes, Dominic and I have gotten close. Yes, we talk. Yes, we flirt. And you know what? It feels good to have a man actually pay attention to me for once." My heart hammered against my ribs. What the hell does that mean? "It means I'm tired of being married to a ghost. When's the last time you really looked at me, Greg? When's the last time you touched me like you actually wanted me?" "So you decided to find that attention somewhere else?" "I haven't done anything wrong. Yet." She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something in her eyes that chilled me to the bone. Not guilt, not shame, calculation. "Maybe I should," she said quietly. "Should what?" "Maybe I should do something wrong. Maybe I should find someone who appreciates what he has instead of taking it for granted." I felt like I'd been sucker punched. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm telling you how I feel. I'm telling you that I'm lonely and neglected and tired of pretending everything's fine when it's not." "So fix it. Talk to me. Don't run to another man." "I tried talking to you. You're never here. You're always working, always stressed about the restaurants, always too tired or too busy for your own family." She had a point, and we both knew it. I'd been working 60-hour weeks for months, trying to get promoted to regional manager, but that didn't excuse what she was doing. "So what do you want from me?" I asked. Alicia took a deep breath, like she was about to jump off a cliff. "I want you to understand that things have to change. Either you start being the husband I need, or what? Or maybe we should explore other options." My blood ran cold. "What kind of options?" "Dominic thinks we could all be friends. Really good friends. He thinks you might even like the arrangement once you got used to it." I stared at her, unable to process what I was hearing. "You discussed our marriage with him?" "We discussed possibilities?" "What kind of possibilities?" She lifted her chin defiantly. "The kind where everyone gets what they need." The room started spinning. "You want me to share you with him?" "I want us all to be happy." "And if I say no?" Her silence was answer enough. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Unbelievable. My wife wants to turn our marriage into some twisted threesome, and if I don't agree, what? You'll leave me for a factory worker?" "Dominic's a good man." "Dominic's a piece of shit who's trying to steal another man's wife." "He's not stealing anything. He's offering something you can't." "Like what?" "Passion. Excitement. He makes me feel alive again." "And I make you feel what? Dead?" Tears started running down her cheeks, but her voice stayed strong. "You make me feel invisible." That hit harder than any physical blow could have, because part of me knew she was right. I had been neglecting her, taking her for granted, assuming she'd always be there no matter how little effort I put in. But that didn't make what she was doing okay. "So instead of working on our marriage, you decided to shop for a replacement," I said. "That's not what this is." "That's exactly what this is. You found someone who makes you feel good, and now you want to keep us both. Have your cake and eat it too." "It doesn't have to be ugly, Greg. We could make this work." "For who? You and him? What about me? What about our kids?" "The kids don't have to know anything, and you might surprise yourself. You might like having less pressure, less responsibility. I stared at this woman I thought I knew, this mother of my children, this person I'd pledged to love and honor till death do us part. She was asking me to hand over half my life to another man and be grateful for the privilege. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of my house. Tonight. Go stay with Susie, go stay with Dominic, I don't care. But get out. Greg, you're overreacting. Let's talk about this rationally. There's nothing rational about what you're asking me to do. You want to fuck another man? Fine. But you don't get to do it while living in my house and spending my money. This is my house too. Not anymore. You made your choice. Now live with it. I turned and walked toward the kitchen, needing distance before I did something I'd regret. Behind me, I heard her starting to cry. Real tears this time, not the manipulative ones she'd used to justify her betrayal. Greg, please, don't do this. We can work it out. I turned around. She stood at the bottom of the stairs in her ridiculous catsuit, makeup smeared, looking small and desperate. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered Dominic's hand on her waist, their secret whispers, her casual suggestion that I share my wife like a pizza. Pack a bag, I said. I want you gone in an hour. The house felt different without her in it. Emptier, but also cleaner somehow, like an infected wound that had finally been drained. I sat at my kitchen table the next morning, drinking coffee and staring at my phone. 17 missed calls from Alicia. 12 text messages ranging from angry to desperate to threatening. I deleted them all without reading past the first few words. The doorbell rang at 9 a.m. I opened it to find Susie on my front porch, still wearing yesterday's makeup and looking like she'd slept in her car. We need to talk, she said, pushing past me into my living room. Good morning to you too. Don't be a smartass, Greg. Do you have any idea what you've done? I poured myself another cup of coffee and didn't offer her one. I threw out a cheating wife, pretty standard procedure. She didn't cheat. She wanted to? She asked me to let her? Same thing? Susie plopped down on my couch like she owned the place. Look, I know this is hard to understand, but what Alicia suggested isn't that crazy. Lots of couples are exploring alternative arrangements these days. Alternative arrangements. I laughed bitterly. Is that what we're calling adultery now? It's not adultery if everyone agrees to it. But I didn't agree to it. I said no, and she basically threatened to leave me if I didn't change my mind. Susie was quiet for a moment, which was unusual for her. She was normally a motor mouth who never met a silence she couldn't fill. Maybe you should reconsider, she finally said. Excuse me? I'm just saying, maybe you're being a little rigid about this. Marriage is about compromise, right? I stared at her, trying to figure out what game she was playing. Susie, your husband is trying to steal my wife. Why are you encouraging this? She shrugged. Because I think you'd all be happier this way. All of us? What about you? I'd be fine with it. You'd be fine with sharing your husband? I'd be fine with not having to pretend I don't know he wants other women. That stopped me cold. You know about the affair? What affair? They haven't done anything physical. Yet. Right. Yet. But Greg, be realistic. Dominic's going to cheat eventually. He always does. At least this way, it would be honest. My coffee mug hit the table harder than I intended. He always does? You mean this isn't the first time? Susie's face went pale. I shouldn't have said that. But you did. So explain it. She stood up and started pacing around my living room, picking up picture frames and setting them down again. Dominic has needs, okay? Physical needs that I can't always meet. So he cheats. So he finds outlets. And you let him. I manage the situation. I felt sick. How many women, Susie? That's not important. How many? A few, over the years. And you knew about all of them? Most of them. Jesus Christ. I ran my hands through my hair. Does Alicia know about the others? No, and you can't tell her. Why not? Because she thinks she's special. She thinks Dominic's never felt this way about anyone before. The pieces started falling into place. But he has. He said the same things to other women, made the same promises. Yes. And you helped him. Susie stopped pacing and looked at me with something like pity. I protected my marriage the only way I knew how. By controlling who he cheated with. By picking his victims for him. By making sure they were women who wouldn't threaten what we have. I stood up, feeling rage building in my chest like steam in a pressure cooker. You set up my wife. I introduced two lonely people who could help each other. You pimped out my wife to keep your husband happy. That's not how it is. That's exactly how it is. You knew he'd get bored with her eventually, just like he got bored with the others. You knew he'd break her heart and come crawling back to you, and you figured I'd either take her back or she'd be too broken to be a threat. Susie's silence confirmed my suspicions. Get out, I said. Greg, listen to me. Get out of my house before I do something we'll both regret. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door, but turned back before leaving. You're making a mistake. This could work out for everyone if you just be reasonable. Reasonable? You want me to be reasonable about my wife fucking your serial cheater husband while you pull the strings behind the scenes? I want you to be smart about this. Here's me being smart. Stay away from me, stay away from my kids, and tell your husband that if I see him anywhere near my family, I'll introduce his face to my fist. After she left, I sat in my empty house and tried to process everything I'd learned. My wife wasn't just having an emotional affair. She was being manipulated by a serial cheater and his enabling wife. She thought she was special and thought she'd found true love, when really she was just the latest in a long line of conquests. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Not just at Alicia, but at Dominic and Susie and everyone who knew what was happening and said nothing. I pulled out my phone and started making calls. First, I called my lawyer. Then I called my boss and asked for a few days off. Then I called Richard. Hey man, he answered on the second ring. How are you holding up? I need a favor. Name it. I need to know who else knew about Alicia and Dominic before last night. Richard was quiet for a moment. Greg, I don't think that's a good idea. I need to know who my real friends are, Richard, and who was laughing behind my back while my marriage fell apart. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. Either people were trying to protect me, or they were protecting themselves. Either they're my friends, or they're not. Okay, he said finally, but you're not going to like what I tell you. He was right. I didn't like it at all. By Monday morning, half the town knew about my marriage imploding, the other half would know by lunch. I drove to work with my phone buzzing constantly, friends, family, co-workers, all wanting the inside scoop on the drama. I ignored them all and focused on the task at hand. My first stop was the gym where Alicia and Dominic had been working out together for the past 3 months. I found him at the bench press, showing off for a group of housewives who giggled at his jokes and complimented his form. Dominic, I called out across the weight room, we need to talk. The giggling stopped. Everyone turned to stare at us, sensing drama. Dominic set down his weights and stood up, trying to look casual, but I could see the nervousness in his eyes. Hey Greg, how's it going? Oh, wife left me for another man. Pretty standard Monday morning. The housewives gasped and started whispering to each other. Dominic's face went red. Maybe we should take this outside, he said. Why? Embarrassed? You weren't embarrassed when you were flirting with my wife in front of everyone. Why start now? Greg, come on. Don't make a scene. I'm not making a scene. I'm having a conversation with the man who destroyed my marriage. Seems like a perfectly reasonable place to do it, considering this is where it all started. By now, the entire gym had stopped what they were doing to watch us. I could see phones coming out, people recording what they hoped would be a fight. Look, Dominic said, trying to sound reasonable. I know you're upset, but Alicia and I never crossed any lines. Really? Because she seems to think you two had quite a few conversations about our marriage, about alternative arrangements, about possibilities. His face went even redder. She told you that? She told me a lot of things, like how you make her feel alive, how you give her passion and excitement, how you think I might even like sharing her with you once I got used to it. The gasps from the housewives were audible now. Someone's phone was definitely recording. That's not... We never... You never what? Never planned to fuck my wife? Never suggested I might enjoy being a cuckold? Never promised her a better life with a real man? Greg, please. You're misunderstanding the situation. I stepped closer to him, close enough that he had to look up to meet my eyes. For all his muscles, Dominic was shorter than me by a good 3 inches. Help me understand then, I said quietly. Explain to me how a married man convinces another man's wife to leave her husband. Explain to me how that's not crossing a line. He glanced around at all the people watching us, clearly wishing he was anywhere else. I never told her to leave you? No, you just told her she deserved better. You just made her feel special and wanted and appreciated. You just happened to be there every time she needed a shoulder to cry on about her terrible husband. She was unhappy, Greg. I didn't make her unhappy. But you sure as hell took advantage of it. I could see him getting angry now, his gym rat pride finally kicking in. Maybe if you'd been a better husband, she wouldn't have needed someone else's attention. That was the wrong thing to say. I grabbed the front of his tank top and pulled him toward me. Maybe if you weren't a piece of shit who goes after married women, my wife would still be at home where she belongs. Get your hands off me, he said, but his voice shook. Or what? You'll call your wife? Oh, wait, she's probably already picking out your next target. His eyes widened. What are you talking about? You know what I'm talking about. This isn't your first rodeo, is it, Dominic? How many other marriages have you helped destroy? How many other husbands got to watch their wives fall for your act? You're crazy. Am I? Because Susie seemed to think this was all pretty routine. Just another lonely housewife for her cheating husband to play with until he got bored. I could see the truth in his face, the guilt, the shame, the realization that I knew more than he'd thought. That's not how it is with Alicia, he said weakly. Sure it's not. She's special, right? Different from all the others. You've never felt this way before. I haven't. Bullshit. You're a predator, Dominic. You find unhappy wives and you tell them exactly what they want to hear until they're ready to throw away their families for you. And then what? You get bored and move on to the next one? It's not like that. Then what is it like? Explain it to me. Explain it to everyone here. I gestured to the crowd of people surrounding us, all hanging on every word. Explain how a man with integrity pursues another man's wife? Explain how that's not the behavior of a coward and a homewrecker. He tried to push me away, but I held on tight. Let go of me, Greg. Answer the question first. Are you a coward and a homewrecker? Fuck you. That's what I thought. I shoved him backward. He stumbled and fell over a weight bench, landing hard on his ass in front of everyone. The entire gym erupted in whispers and gasps. Phones were definitely recording now. Stay away from my wife, I said loud enough for everyone to hear. Stay away from my kids. Stay away from me. If I see you anywhere near my family, we'll finish this conversation in a way you won't enjoy. I walked out of the gym feeling better than I had in months. Behind me, I could hear the explosion of gossip as everyone started talking at once. By the time I got to my car, the video was probably already on social media. Good. Let everyone see what happens when you mess with another man's family. The video of me humiliating Dominic at the gym went viral in our small town within hours. My phone buzzed constantly with calls and texts from people I hadn't heard from in years, all wanting to know more details about the drama. Most of them were supportive. Apparently, I wasn't the only person who thought Dominic was a piece of shit, but some of the calls were less friendly. Greg, this is Tom Patterson from HR, my voicemail said. We need to talk about the incident at the gym. Please call me back as soon as possible. I deleted the message without calling back. I had bigger problems than work drama, like the fact that Alicia had apparently moved in with Dominic and Susie. I found this out when I drove by their house Tuesday evening and saw her car in the driveway. All three of them were sitting on the front porch like some twisted version of a happy family, drinking beer and laughing. The sight of it made me physically sick. I parked across the street and called Alicia's phone. I could see her look at it, then decline the call. She said something to Dominic and Susie, and they all laughed again. That's when I decided to escalate things. I drove to the auto parts store and bought a few supplies. Then I went home and did some research online. By midnight, I had a plan. Wednesday morning, I woke up early and drove to Dominic's factory. I knew his shift started at 7 a.m., and I knew he always parked in the same spot, right under a streetlight where everyone could see his precious Camaro. The car was his pride and joy, a restored 1969 SS that he'd spent years and thousands of dollars perfecting. He washed it twice a week and never let anyone else drive it, which made what I did next even more satisfying. I didn't damage the car. That would have been illegal. Instead, I decorated it. Using washable paint and magnetic signs, I turned his beautiful Camaro into a mobile billboard advertising his services as a home wrecker for hire and marriage destroyer, satisfaction guaranteed. I also left a few dozen flyers under windshields in the parking lot, explaining in detail how Dominic Reeves specialized in seducing married women and breaking up families, complete with his phone number and address. Then I sat in my car across the street and waited for him to arrive. He pulled into the parking lot at 6:55 a.m., chatting on his phone, probably with Alicia. He parked and got out without looking at his car, still talking and laughing. It wasn't until he ended the call and turned around that he saw what I'd done. The scream of rage he let out could probably be heard 3 blocks away. Workers started pouring out of the factory to see what was wrong. When they saw Dominic's decorated car, the laughter started. Someone took pictures. Someone else took video. Within minutes, half the parking lot was gathered around his car, reading the flyers and cracking jokes. Dominic frantically tried to pull off the magnetic signs and scrape off the paint, but it was too late. The damage to his reputation was already done. His supervisor came out to see what the commotion was about. When he saw the crowd and the car, his face went dark. "Reeves, what the hell is this?" "It's not what it looks like. It looks like you're advertising side services in our parking lot. Someone did this to my car. It's vandalism. Then call the cops. But get this shit cleaned up before any customers see it. I started my car and drove away, feeling satisfied. The paint would wash off easily, the signs hadn't damaged anything, and the flyers were just paper. Nothing illegal about any of it. But Dominic's reputation at work was probably shot. My phone rang as I drove home. Unknown number. Hello? You son of a bitch. It was Dominic, and he was furious. What the fuck did you do to my car? I decorated it. Don't you like it? I thought it accurately represented your business model. You're fucking insane. I'm creative. There's a difference. I'm calling the cops. Good luck with that. I didn't break any laws. Can't say the same for you, though. What are you talking about? Alienation of affection is still a crime in some places, Dominic. So is adultery, even if it's just emotional. The line went quiet for a moment. We haven't done anything illegal, he said finally. Yet. But we both know where this is headed, don't we? You're going to keep pushing until Alicia gives in completely. And then what? You'll get bored and move on to the next married woman? It's not like that with her. Keep telling yourself that. But here's what's really going to happen. You're going to realize that being with a woman who betrayed her husband and kids isn't as exciting as you thought. The thrill was in the chase, not the catch. And when that happens, you'll dump her and she'll come crawling back to me. You're wrong. Am I? How many other women have you said that about, Dominic? How many other marriages have you helped destroy for fun? He hung up on me. I spent the rest of the morning fielding calls from friends and family who'd heard about the car incident. Most of them thought it was hilarious. A few thought I was going too far. But none of them thought I was wrong. Around noon, my lawyer called. Greg, I heard about what happened at the gym and the factory. We need to talk. I didn't break any laws. Maybe not, but you're walking a fine line. If this escalates any further, you could end up in real legal trouble. What kind of trouble? Harassment charges. Stalking charges. Maybe worse if you actually hurt someone. I'm not going to hurt anyone. I hope not. But Greg, I'm telling you as your attorney and your friend, be careful. Don't let your anger make you do something stupid. I promised him I'd be careful, but I wasn't done yet. Not even close. The annual block party was scheduled for Saturday afternoon, and despite everything that had happened, I decided to go. Our neighborhood had been having the same party for 15 years. Everyone brought food, the kids played games, and the adults gossiped and drank beer. This year, the gossip was going to be about me. I showed up around 2 p.m. with a case of beer and a grim smile. The party was in full swing, with about 50 people scattered across the Johnsons' front yard and the street beyond. I could feel eyes on me as I walked up, conversation stopping mid-sentence as people tried to figure out what kind of drama I might bring to their nice, civilized gathering. Greg! Nancy Johnson rushed over to greet me, her face bright with fake concern. How are you holding up, honey? I'm fantastic, Nancy. Thanks for asking. She looked confused by my cheerful response. Well, if you need anything at all, you just let me know. Actually, there is something you can help me with. Of course. What do you need? I pulled out my phone and opened the voice recording app. I need you to tell everyone here what you told me at the grocery store last week, about Alicia and Dominic. Nancy's face went white. Greg, I don't think this is the time or place. I think it's the perfect time and place. You seemed pretty eager to share the gossip when you thought it was just between us. By now, people were starting to gather around us, sensing drama. What did Nancy tell you? Asked Mike Henderson, one of my neighbors. She told me that she'd seen my wife and Dominic together at the hotel downtown, during lunch hours, multiple times. The crowd gasped. Nancy looked like she wanted to disappear. I thought you should know, she stammered. Oh, I appreciate the information. I really do. But I'm curious. How many other people did you share this information with? Nancy glanced around at the crowd, clearly trapped. I might have mentioned it to a few people. A few people? Like who? Greg, please, don't do this. Don't do what? Don't ask my neighbors and friends why they thought it was more important to gossip about my marriage than to actually tell me what was happening. The crowd was getting bigger now, people abandoning their conversations and food to watch the show. We didn't want to hurt you, said Carol Martinez, Nancy's best friend. You didn't want to hurt me, so you thought it would be better to let me find out at a party, in front of everyone, after months of being made a fool of. It wasn't our place to interfere in your marriage, said someone else. But it was your place to talk about it behind my back? The crowd was getting uncomfortable now, people shifting their weight and avoiding eye contact. Where's your loyalty? I asked, looking around at faces I'd known for years. These are people I've barbecued with, watched football with, helped move furniture and fix cars, and when my marriage was falling apart, not one of you thought to give me a heads up. Greg, said Tom Wilson, trying to sound reasonable. We were trying to stay out of it. Bullshit. You were trying to avoid drama. You were more concerned about your own comfort than about doing the right thing. That's not fair, said Nancy. You know what's not fair? Finding out that half the neighborhood knew my wife was cheating before I did. You know what's not fair? Discovering that people I considered friends were taking bets on when my marriage would implode. Nobody was taking bets, Nancy protested. Really? Because I heard differently. I was bluffing, but the guilty looks on several faces told me I'd hit close to the mark. The point is, I continued, you all failed me. Every single one of you chose gossip over friendship. You chose entertainment over loyalty. So what do you want from us? Asked Mike Henderson. I want you to own it. I want you to admit that you cared more about having something juicy to talk about than about protecting someone you claim to care about. The crowd was silent now, the weight of my words sinking in. And I want you to remember this moment the next time you're tempted to spread rumors about someone's personal life, because karma's a bitch, and someday it might be your turn. That's when I saw them. Alicia, Dominic, and Susie were walking up the street toward the party. They'd probably been debating whether to come, but curiosity had won out. The crowd saw them too and went completely silent. Well, well, I said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Look who decided to join us. The happy throuple. Alicia's face went red. Greg, don't. Don't what? Don't acknowledge the elephant in the room? Don't mention that my wife left me for another man and his enabling wife? It's not like that, Susie said. Then what is it like, Susie? Explain it to everyone. Explain how you helped your serial cheater husband seduce my wife. Explain how this was all part of your master plan to keep him happy. The crowd was riveted now, phones coming out to record the confrontation. You don't know what you're talking about, Dominic said, but his voice lacked conviction. Don't I? Then tell everyone how many other married women you've been with, Dominic. Tell them how Susie helped you target them. That's not true, Susie protested. Really? Then name them. Name the other women your husband cheated with while you looked the other way. Susie's silence was damning. I thought so, I said. See, everyone, this isn't a love story. This isn't about two people finding their soulmates. This is about predators who target vulnerable people for sport. Greg, stop, Alicia said, tears starting to flow. You're embarrassing yourself. I'm embarrassing myself? I'm not the one who threw away a 12-year marriage for a man who collects wives like trophies. It's not like that. Then what is it like? Explain to everyone how you went from devoted mother and wife to living in a threesome with a serial cheater and his pimp wife. Don't call her that. What should I call her? The woman who helped her husband destroy our marriage? The woman who picked you out like a piece of meat for her husband to devour? Dominic finally stepped forward, his face dark with anger. That's enough. Or what? You'll hit me? In front of all these people? In front of the police? I gestured to Officer Martinez, who lived 2 streets over and was watching the whole thing with professional interest. You want to solve this like men? Fine, but do it legally. I challenge you to a boxing match. 3 rounds, regulation ring, proper referee. Winner takes all. The crowd murmured with excitement. This was better than reality TV. Dominic looked around at all the faces watching him, clearly trapped. If he said no, he'd look like a coward. If he said yes, he'd have to fight a man who used to box competitively. You're on, he said finally. Excellent. Next Saturday, 7 p.m. at the community center. I'll arrange everything. I turned to address the crowd. Everyone's invited. Come watch a real man defend his family's honor against a coward who hides behind women. The crowd erupted in excited chatter. This was going to be the social event of the year. Alicia was crying openly now. Greg, please don't do this. Why not? Afraid your boyfriend might lose? I'm afraid you're going to get hurt. I'm already hurt, Alicia. You made sure of that. But at least this way, I'll go down swinging. Dominic was trying to look confident, but I could see the fear in his eyes. He was strong, but strength wasn't everything in a boxing ring. 1 week, I said to him. 1 week to say goodbye to my wife, because after I'm done with you, she's going to realize what a mistake she made. We'll see about that, he replied, but his voice shook. As the crowd began to disperse, buzzing with excitement about the upcoming fight, I felt a sense of satisfaction I hadn't experienced in months. Win or lose, I was going to get my revenge, and everyone in town was going to watch it happen. The fight was scheduled for the following Saturday at 7 p.m. Word spread through our small town like wildfire, and by Tuesday, people were already placing bets on the outcome. I spent the week training at a gym in the next town over, working with my old coach who'd helped me win the regional amateur championship 15 years earlier. "You're in decent shape for a restaurant manager," Coach Williams said after our first session. "But this Dominic guy is younger and stronger. You're going to have to outthink him." I plan to. Friday night, Alicia showed up looking like the last 12 years had been a bad dream she'd just woken from. "Call it off, Greg. Please. Dominic will hurt you." I let her in. "You still love me, huh?" "I never stopped. I just got stupid." "Stupid is moving in with the guy 2 weeks after you blow up our family." She cried the same tears that used to work. They didn't anymore. "Go home to your sister," I told her. "Tomorrow you can watch your boyfriend learn something." Saturday, the gym was packed and humming. Rain tapped the roof like it wanted in on the action. Dominic strutted in with Susie and his shrinking fan club. I just laced my gloves and smiled. 3 rounds. Round 1, he swung like he was chopping wood. I danced, popped his nose, made him miss. Round 2, he gassed. I cracked him with a right that buckled his knees. Crowd lost its mind. Round 3, he caught me with a wild hook, put me down. World went sparkly. I got up at 8. He rushed in drunk on the moment, hands low, uppercut, lights out. The place exploded. I took the mic while Dominic was still trying to remember his own name. "This wasn't about getting my wife back," I said. "She made her choice." I looked straight at him. "This was about proving some things are still worth fighting for." Then I looked at Alicia, eyes shining in row 3. "Tell your boyfriend the underdog just won." I dropped the mic, walked out into the cool night air, and didn't look back. Some victories don't need a rematch.